Good afternoon. We begin in the Beaches, where a man had to be rescued after flames broke out at an apartment building this morning.
The fire is now out, and an investigation into what caused the blaze has begun. CTV's John Musselman is live at the scene with the very latest. John.
Well, Nathan, it started in the three-story building behind me on the third floor. We can show you some video this morning. This fire broke out just around 9 o'clock this morning. Firefighters say when they got on the scene, they had to rescue a man who is in a third-floor unit. He was brought out of the home. He was not conscious or breathing, but he was revived and rushed to hospital, we're told. He is now listed in serious condition. The street was sealed off here while firefighters controlled this fire. It was contained to the one unit, but there are multiple dwellings in this three-story building. Here's what one of the witnesses was able to tell us this morning, and we also spoke to the district chief in charge of this area.
Like, I was in my unit, I work at home. The alarms went off. When alarms go off, they're usually false alarms. I opened the door, still didn't see anything. When I came outside, I saw smoke coming out of the top apartment.
And then you said you saw somebody rescue.
Yeah, and then I saw the fire department pull someone out. They had to resuscitate him on the front lawn. He appeared to be okay when they took him away. Burning mattress on the front lawn.
Crews arrived, and we were notified that there was a occupant still in one of the apartments. They quickly made access and found the occupant and removed him and knocked down the fire.
How big a fire was it at the time? Was it mostly smoke?
It was confined to one apartment and to one area of the apartment, but there was a fair bit of smoke in the apartment.
And you're looking at a live shot of the, looks like a burnt mattress. There's a lighter and a TV remote control on top of that mattress that was pulled out of the unit. Again, firefighters say the person who was rescued here listed in serious condition. The exact cause of this fire, though, remains under investigation. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Well, it certainly doesn't feel like it out there, but winter indeed is coming.
The city is preparing for snowfall to cover the roads, unveiling its winter maintenance plan. We're joined by CTV's Mike Walker. Mike, most people aren't thinking about winter, especially today, but it is good to be prepared.
Of course it is, no doubt. When it's this mild out at the end of October, I think the last thing anyone wants to talk about is winter. But the reality is the snow is coming, and the city says its fleets and crews are already preparing as they announce details for its winter maintenance operations. Now, that includes its fleet of more than 1,400 snow clearing equipment that are ready to mobilize, clear the snow and ice on more than 14,000 kilometers of road. The city says it will take 2 hours to fully clear expressways after 2.5 centimeters of snowfall, and crews will clear major roads after 5 centimeters and residential streets after 8 centimeters of snowfall. The winter budget for 2024 is $140 million, and given how mild last winter was, more than about $58 million is left over in the budget. The city is also looking to increase its winter maintenance budget in 2025. That is proposed to be increased to $160 million. The city adds improvements to 311 and bylaw changes made this year will allow for a quicker response time in the event of major snowfalls. Here's more from officials.
So we are prepared for any potential eventuality, whether it's 50 centimeters in a day or 50 centimeters an entire season.
When deployed, sidewalk equipment simultaneously salts and plows to enhance mobility and improve safety. Now, for people who choose to cycle in the winter, and there are many, we have increased our focus on winter bike lane maintenance and all cycling infrastructure, separated and shared, along with our multi-use paths. They will all be cleared, salted, and plowed at 2 centimeters of snow accumulation, similar to our sidewalks.
Now, the city also announced today that they are considering using AI technology when it comes to automated salt applications to ensure that the correct amounts of salt quantities are being deployed to the streets when the crews are out. Another thing the city is watching carefully as the temperatures drop are water main breaks. Despite a decline year over year, the city still averages about 700. Reporting live, Mike Walker, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. We got more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Suddenly, it's shorts and T-shirt weather again. Yes, it's late October and we are well above seasonal, and this trend will continue for Halloween. Good news for trick-or-treaters. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions, and it's still hard to believe that we're almost at the end of the month.
You know, we're climbing back into the 20s. We have a humidex as we wrap up the month of October. We are still a ways away from the start of the winter season. The official start this year, December 21st, early on in the morning. But it's feeling nothing like winter or even fall as we head throughout our Wednesday. We'll see a mix of sun and cloud throughout the day, a little more cloud cover right now. But temperature-wise, we are already into the 20s. And it's going to stay warm. We're at 21 through Windsor, 21 in Hamilton, 20 in Peterborough, 19 up in Parry Sound. Now, as we head throughout the rest of our day, we will see a fairly moderate southwesterly wind, so that's helping to keep things nice and warm. We're sitting at 17 through the islands, a little sunnier through the downtown core, a little more cloud cover out through Pearson, but it is warm regardless. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, and we will break down. We're still watching that Halloween trick-or-treating forecast. All those details after the break. Right now, back over to Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. At Queen's Park, the Ontario government is set to unveil its fall economic statement today. The mini-budget will be tabled in the legislature this afternoon. The premiers described it as an ambitious plan to build highways, hospitals, and homes. The PCs have already announced the fiscal update will include a continued cut to the gas tax and a $3 billion initiative to send $200 checks to every Ontario taxpayer. The plan is to start mailing them out early next year. The government says it can afford the rebates because of a higher than expected revenue. Critics have suggested the checks are timed to arrive ahead of a possible spring election.
Police are sharing the results of a firearm investigation in the city's northeast, which led to a long list of arrests. 31 Division's Major Crime Unit executed search warrants in the area of Shepherd and Leslie on Monday. They say they seized 4 loaded firearms and overcapacity magazines, as well as a device that can make handguns fully automatic. Quantities of cash and drugs were also allegedly found. 10 suspects, aged 19 to 39, were arrested and charged with a range of weapons offenses.
Police have released images of a woman wanted in alleged hate-motivated assault. Police were called to the Jane and Wilson area on September 11th after an employee at a business was assaulted by a customer. Police say the suspect threw a product scanner at the victim while uttering threats and racial slurs. They're asking anyone with information to come forward.
Next to the race to replace the vacant seat on Toronto City Council. Last night, candidates in the Ward 15 by-election squared off in a debate.
The two front-runners hoping to gain an edge with less than a week to go before voters cast their ballots. CTV's Beth McDonnell has the details.
11 candidates vying to be the next city councillor in Don Valley West took to the debate stage. But it's Rachel Chernos-Lynn, Toronto District School Board Chair, and former mayoral candidate and journalist Anthony Furey, who appear to have the most support according to a recent poll.
I have an awful lot of experience in governance, in getting things done.
I'm going to be someone who stands up for the common sense priorities that I've been hearing from the residents in Don Valley West and the people all across Toronto.
The debate focusing on questions around social and affordable housing and homelessness, with Chernos-Lynn and Furey offering some different positions.
I do not support encampments in public spaces, in parks where families use, close to playgrounds, because I have a families first policy.
What we need is an outreach model where folks from streets to home are out there in the parks making contact with individuals who are there and offering services that are available.
There were some heated moments from the audience.
Why do you think you'd make a good councillor at City Hall, given your track record at the TDSB?
One of the leading candidates, Anthony Furey, doesn't mention homelessness in his actual platform.
And with just days to go before the election, both candidates are emphasizing what they'd bring to City Council, with Chernos-Lynn criticizing Furey for not living in the ward.
This race is about the city councillor for Don Valley West and the issues that are facing people who live in Don Valley West. This is not about what's happening 2 years from now in the race for mayor. For me, it's about serving the people of Don Valley West, not whether, I want, someone who wants to be mayor.
I grew up in the area. We ran a family business in the area. Used to do my groceries every second day at Thorncliffe Park. I worked at the Canadian Tire for many years. I know Don Valley West very well.
Election Day is November 4th. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Making waves in the world of hockey, Jessica Campbell, the first full-time woman coach in the NHL, spoke to the media today in Toronto.
It comes as she prepares her team, the Seattle Kraken, to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs. CTV's Raheem Ladani is live with more. Raheem.
Nathan and Michelle, good afternoon. Yes, as you mentioned, we had the opportunity to speak with Jessica Campbell this morning. And what really struck me was the balance she was able to strike between making sure that she remains focused, that her players on the Kraken are ready for their game tomorrow night against the Maple Leafs, while also recognizing the position she's in and the fact that she is a trailblazer for so many young girls and boys. At just 32 years old, Campbell is the first ever female to hold a full-time coaching position in the NHL. She is, of course, the assistant coach for the Seattle Kraken. She has risen up the ranks quickly from her time as a player at Cornell University to coaching in Sweden and Germany and then opening a power skating school. But it was during the COVID-19 pandemic that she got her big break. That was when NHL players were looking for somewhere to skate. And as her clientele grew, so too did her profile. But when you ask Campbell, she attributes her success to her upbringing in Saskatchewan and her mother.
I think about my childhood, and I played boys hockey right up until I was 16 years old, really. And you know, the pictures for me as a young kid was, 10 kids on the bench, and they were all boys, and myself and my mom was the coach. And so I think looking back, you can always connect those dots backwards, right? And so in ways, she perhaps planted this seed in me, and I saw it at a young age, but never really thought of it, any differently. But she showed up. She's always shown up. So for her to get to celebrate this, it's really neat.
And there was also a funny moment this morning after Campbell said that she grew up as a Montreal Canadiens fan because that's where that's the team her whole family cheered for. They asked her, they said, "So you must hate the Leafs." Well, she laughed and said, "We respect our opponent, but I grew up in a Habs household." The Leafs and Kraken play tomorrow night. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks, Raheem. There were some unusual commuters on the Lakeshore West Line this morning. A pair of alpacas boarded the GO train at Scarborough Station earlier today to make the trip downtown. The alpacas, named Dawson and Pacey, made quite an impression on the human commuters who were eager to get photos or pet them while they traveled on the train. Now, this is all part of an annual event to help launch the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair. Organizers choose an ambassador animal to take the train into the city on the way to the fair this year, and they chose 2 alpacas.
Alpacas are herd animals, so as long as they have a partner, thankfully they're half brothers, so they work really well together, and it gives each other confidence. And they are also on a farm that has lots of tourism show up, so they've met a lot of people along their short life. They're about a year old right now.
So they're professionals.
They're very professional, which makes them a great ambassador. That's something we consider when we're choosing an animal ambassador every year.
Well, they look so calm. Yes, well behaved. The Royal Winter Fair starts this Friday, and it runs until November 10th. Jess, how about that?
It's a great day to get out and check out some alpacas. Whether you're going to the city or heading east out of the city, it'll be a beautiful day. We're holding on in the 20s as a bit of a late season surge of warm air overtakes us. We're looking at a daytime high of 22. We should be at 10. A little more cloud cover than usual, but we will see some sunshine throughout the day and a really moderate southwesterly wind. That sunset time, though, 6:10 p.m. It's getting early. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we say so long to October, hello to November, and we will keep a close eye on that trick-or-treating forecast. All those details after the break.
As of today, Quebec is now the first province in Canada to allow people to make advance requests for medical assistance in dying. The requests can be granted to people with serious and incurable diseases. Ottawa is not going to challenge Quebec's new law on medically assisted dying and has told prosecutors not to lay charges. Ottawa is holding consultations on amending the criminal code to allow similar requests to be made across the country. A report will be released next spring. To talk more about this, CTV's Scott Hurst joins us now. Scott, help us better understand Quebec's approach here.
Michelle, this is a controversial move by Quebec, being the first province in the country to make this decision and make this move. Ultimately, a key criteria for medical assistance in dying is the ability to give informed consent, mental competency at the time. And basically, advocates are saying this now allows Canadians the ability to make a decision at an earlier time when they are capable of making that healthcare decision for yourself at a later time to allow a person with a serious and incurable illness to request that medically assisted death be administered months or years in advance. However, critics are arguing Quebec is moving too fast on this issue and are concerned over how patients' desires for end-of-life care may evolve over time. However, according to experts, they point out that this law stipulates you cannot proceed with MAID unless two conditions are met. Firstly, you're now in the condition you specified in advance, and secondly, it must be determined medically that you are experiencing unbearable suffering and severe distress. Here's more from experts describing the latest move by Quebec being the first in the nation.
You can already in advance make life or death decisions for yourself later when you become incapable. What this does is to shift that into a different mode with MAID, where instead of writing an advance refusal of some life-sustaining or prolonging treatment, you can write an advance request for MAID under the same circumstances when you've become incapable.
Now, Michelle, the Quebec bill also has a provision that protects doctors from prosecution since Ottawa has not made changes to the criminal code at this time.
And to that point, I mean, Canada has to amend the criminal code. And so do we know why Ottawa has decided to let this go ahead in Quebec and not fight it?
At this point, the line from Ottawa is that it will not challenge the Quebec law, saying that to amend the criminal code, it wants more time for consultation. And we did hear earlier this week from Health Minister Mark Holland saying Ottawa will soon launch consultations with provinces and territories and those in the medical community and Canadians to allow time for more consultation on this issue and open up a so-called national conversation. Those conversations will begin in November, continue through the rest of the year into early next year, and a report on this issue is expected sometime in the spring, Michelle.
Well, we appreciate this conversation. CTV's Scott Hurst live for us in the CTV National Newsroom. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
On Parliament Hill, the Liberal caucus is meeting today for the first time since 24 MPs wrote a letter last week telling the Prime Minister he should step aside for good or for the good of the party. But this morning, some members were expressing support for their leader.
Your own party doesn't even like your leader.
Oh, our party likes our leader. Don't kid yourself. Oh, a lot of this is propaganda that's going.
By who? Propaganda by who?
We'll do just
propaganda by who?
Now the question was, that the Prime Minister would remain as the leader of the party, and he said, yes, I do. So once you've established that, then the best way for us to win the trust of Canadians and to win the next election is to work together, because like I said, the vote that really mattered, the vote of confidence of all, is the one of Canadians.
Some of the dissenters are calling for a secret ballot on Justin Trudeau's leadership. They believe it would out the issue to bed once and for all. The Deputy Prime Minister has rejected the idea, saying it's not how Liberals govern themselves.
In the U.S., Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will be making their final pitches to voters in North Carolina today. It's one of the 7 battleground states that could be pivotal in next Tuesday's presidential election.
They did not struggle, sacrifice, and lay down their lives only to see us cede our fundamental freedoms. They didn't do that only to see us submit to the will of another petty tyrant.
In Washington, Harris pledged last night to put country over party. The Democratic nominee delivered what was described as her closing argument. The candidates' dueling final pitches have been outlined in stark terms for voters, and 2 very different visions of leadership and America's future are on the ballot. And while it remains to be seen what will happen on Election Day in America, at least when it comes to the weather, we can peer into the future a little bit, and we know that we've got warmth.
Yeah, there were a lot of people wearing shorts. I was one of them. If I see a 15 as the current temperature, I'm putting on shorts.
You just loved putting on shorts
This is our last chance for like 5 months.
That's like a Canadian threshold, though. I feel like 15 and anything above 15 is like, all right, I'm going to wear a T-shirt and shorts. It is so warm outside, though, and a southwesterly wind has a lot to do with it. This is obviously not normal. We should be around around 10 degrees, and we will sit above seasonal right through to the end of the month, which is tomorrow. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers you don't pay unless they win. Now, a pretty nice start to the day, a beautiful sunrise after some unsettled weather yesterday. We will see a little cloud cover lingering here and there, but overall it is mild. It is really, really warm outside, and we have a humidex, if you can believe it, as we settle into these last few days of October. We are sitting not near record-breaking temperatures, but it is quite unusual to be this warm. We are at 21 right now here in the city, 23 down through Windsor areas, a little further east, quite mild as well through Ottawa. Anywhere kind of north of Timmins, still a little cooler, but to be fair, this heat, this ridge in the jet stream overtakes a good portion of the province. Throughout the day today, if you can get outside, it's pretty nice. As Nathan mentioned, you can rock some shorts if you want to. You don't need all those extra layers. We're sitting around 22. Again, the seasonal norms are closer to that 9-10 degree mark, but almost everybody, especially into that southwestern corner, holding on to a decent amount of warmth as we head throughout the day today. Tonight, really no different. It'll be 17. We should be at 4. So it is a little challenging if you live in, say, a condo building where the heat's already been switched over and you can't control it yourself. But to be fair, right across the province, we are holding on between about 16 and 18 degrees, almost 20 in some areas as we head through the overnight hours. We're keeping a close eye on this line of showers, though. It is going to impact us as we head in towards the day tomorrow through Halloween. But there is a window. There's that sweet spot where we should be okay for the bulk of the trick-or-treaters out there. As we head throughout the rest of our day today, just again, a little cloud cover, but overall really quite mild. A beautiful day ahead of us, and more like a spring day than a fall day. As we head in towards our Thursday, we start off with some brilliant sunshine, and then as we head in towards the afternoon and evening, that's where we watch for that line of showers to start to move in. But for the most part, as we head throughout the lunch hour, it's just the cloud cover. Now, depending on when you take your trick-or-treaters out, 5 o'clock, the bulk of that shower activity is along that eastern shoreline of Lake Huron, kind of towards Georgian Bay as well, but we are staying relatively dry, just cloudy for a good portion of the GTA and southern Ontario. In towards 6 o'clock, again, we're staying dry, just cloudy. So if you have younger trick-or-treaters, probably good to go out a little earlier. As we head in towards 7, the chance of maybe some scattered showers just east of the downtown core. Hamilton gets some, Waterloo region gets some, but for the most part, the greater Toronto area staying relatively dry. And then that line of showers comes through kind of 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. ish. So if you are heading out between 5 and about 7, you should be all right, but we will watch that pretty closely as we head throughout the day tomorrow as well, obviously. Into your Friday, some cloud cover out there, but it's really not too bad as we end off the week and welcome in a brand new month. Temperature-wise, it is obviously not anywhere close to where we should be, but we are holding on to that warmth, so maybe good for the trick-or-treaters out there. You won't have to layer under your costume. As we head towards our Thursday evening, we lose a lot of that warmth. We still stay above seasonal, but we're back into the single digits. And then we get into Friday, and we just kind of go all the way back towards that seasonal mark as we welcome in a brand new month. Into the weekend, it is sunny, but it is cool. So say you're heading out to the Argos playoff game against Ottawa, it'll be not too bad, but you'll need maybe a layer or two unless you're up in the stands and moving. And as we head in towards Sunday, we fall back with a little bit of sunshine out there. We start to warm up a little bit, and then we step into the first full week of November with some cloud cover, but much more seasonal weather. Michelle, I'll send things back over to you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks.
Well, still ahead, Halloween. It's tomorrow already. The trick-or-treaters are raring to go, but for those with food allergies, there's a tool to tell you about to help avoid any scares. We'll explain just ahead.
One more sleep until Halloween, and kids can't wait to put on their costumes and go trick-or-treating.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us about a tool that might make it easier, especially for kids with food allergies.
Going through your Halloween loot can be great fun, but for families with food allergies, it can be life-saving. Many Halloween treats contain peanuts, dairy, or soy, ingredients that could cause serious problems for kids with allergies.
We're really encouraging neighbors, if they're giving out allergy-free treats, to let neighbors know that using the treat map. So that way, families, as they're planning for the night, can plan their route on the treat map and make sure that they're hitting those those houses that are giving away those really important allergy-free, peanut-free treats.
Treat Map is a feature on the Nextdoor Canada app, a free app available across the country.
It's a big time for communities and for neighborhoods to come together, and it's a bit of a celebration of the neighborhood. So we've seen tons of people using it still, using the Treat Map, but also celebrating Halloween.
The map can also tell you where the biggest, scariest displays will be, a big attraction for some kids, and maybe something for more timid kids to keep at a distance.
We're in 1 in 3 households in the Greater Toronto area, but available all around the country and growing really, really quickly.
And aside from Halloween, Christopher Doyle says the Nextdoor Canada app is good to find neighborhood bargains on certain items and learn about upcoming community events. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
The Toronto Zoo is sharing some sad news today. One of its original animal residents has died after suffering health issues in recent days. Charles was a critically endangered Western Lowland silverback gorilla, and the zoo says he's been a beloved member of their animal family since opening day, all the way back in 1974. Zoo staff noticed he wasn't his usual self late last week, and they believe he was suffering from heart failure. The wildlife health team got Charles started on cardiac medication, saying he appeared to be getting better, but his condition deteriorated quickly yesterday. The zoo says he'll be dearly missed and will inspire those who knew him to keep up the fight against his species' extinction. Charles was 52 years old. A new invention out of the University of Waterloo is taking the pain out of glucose monitoring.
An associate professor is using radar to detect blood sugar levels without needles or finger pricks. CTV's Tyler Kelleher has the details.
It could change the way diabetics track their blood sugar. Non-invasive technology developed at the University of Waterloo monitors blood glucose levels without the use of needles, meaning no more finger pricks, patches, or bleeding.
Different devices, lots of pricking, and it becomes very painful, and sometimes you cannot prick the same spot twice.
Professor George Shaker and his team designed the device meant to be worn on your wrist. He calls it a first of its kind, using radar to send and receive signals through the body, processing the data to detect changes in glucose levels.
Similar to how radars work with satellites, they look at the Earth and they can be used to predict if there is oil or water under the subsurface of the Earth. This technology works in a similar way, but we shrunk it from the satellites to be in almost like a smartwatch.
When I put my finger here, it can actually detect the glucose level. Using the radar, I think, is a game changer.
You will go about your day as usual.
Shaker began the project in 2016. The idea came from his wife, who developed gestational diabetes during pregnancy and dealt with the pain of regularly checking glucose levels. More work needs to be done to validate the accuracy of the device, but once complete, he believes this system is better than what's on the market.
It's way more convenient by just wearing it as part of a watch form factor. Most of us nowadays have smartwatches without involving pricking, without the aftermath of pricking.
The team hopes the device can soon collect other valuable data, including blood pressure. Clinical trials have already been done with around 10 people testing the device. The hope is to make the watch an everyday product for everyone who needs it.
We're hoping that in the near future this will be available for everyone. I think we're just scratching the surface on what radar technology can do.
Tyler Kelleher, CTV News, Waterloo.
A Toronto man says his Airbnb in Montreal was robbed.
His story coming as a warning to travelers because he also learned his losses are not covered by the short-term rental company. CTV's Denise Roberts has the story.
Kiefer Sonnenberg loves to travel and says he stayed in hundreds of Airbnbs. So when he and a friend planned a trip to Montreal, they booked one in the Plateau.
We thought it was awesome. And the place that we were staying at, it looked great. So yeah, I mean, it was like a decent price for the Airbnb too.
They hit all the tourist spots, from Schwartz's to the Bell Center to watch the Habs. But after the game, they found themselves locked out of their apartment.
And it was really strange because we typed in the lock combo and we went to open the door, but the latch lock had been closed.
They called the host, but it was too late for a locksmith to come. So they were put up in another place to stay for the night. When they returned the next day, Sonnenberg says they got a nasty surprise.
And we're like, oh my God, some of our stuff's missing.
His camera, lens, batteries, and AirPods were gone. The same day, the exact items showed up in a Facebook marketplace listing from that neighborhood. Sonnenberg contacted the seller, but decided not to take the risk of meeting him and went to the police. After contacting Airbnb, he found out his losses aren't covered.
And I don't have the additional insurance through Airbnb, which I didn't even know was a thing, that basically like they can't do anything and they just recommend you go through the police.
An Airbnb spokesperson told CTV, "We take reports like this very seriously. We're actively investigating the incident and have made contact with the guests to further support them." Sonnenberg says he didn't think to purchase travel insurance for a trip from Toronto to Montreal, a mistake many make, according to CAA Quebec spokesperson David Marcil.
And it brings back to the whole questions of insurances in Canada. If you're traveling, you should be getting insurance no matter where.
Even if you're staying in a hotel.
Call your insurer, ask what you're covered, how much are you covered for, what are the limits, and really know your contract.
Sonnenberg says his situation should be a warning to others before you book an Airbnb.
Don't let something like this ruin your trip. You know, we still make the most of it.
And he hopes to be back. But next time, he says he'll be better prepared. Denise Roberts, CTV News.
Still to come on CTV News at noon, the Canadian dollar weakened again in morning trading. We'll tell you why, plus the rest of your business headlines after this short break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The Canadian dollar is still struggling, trading at a new 4-year low today against its U.S. counterpart. Andrew Bell of B&M Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Here are your business headlines. The Canadian dollar weakened again in morning trading. It dropped to 71.8 U.S. cents, the weakest since 2020. Some investors think an election victory next week for former U.S. President Donald Trump will bring tariff hikes and tax cuts that will lift inflation and the U.S. dollar. America's NASDAQ index hit a new record high above 18,730. It was lifted by Google's parent Alphabet Inc., which posted results demonstrating that its costly foray into artificial intelligence is starting to pay off. Alphabet shares, which have been lagging the market in recent months, rose 6%. And finally, shares in drug maker Eli Lilly dropped 6% on lackluster sales of its blockbuster weight loss and diabetes medications, Zepbound and Mounjaro. The drug maker cited inventory issues, saying wholesalers had a lot of drugs in stock at the end of the second quarter, causing them to sell less in the latest 3 months. But analysts expressed surprise at the shortfall. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
With the busy holiday season on the horizon, Canada Post is hoping a new contract offer can keep its unionized workers on the job. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers said this week members had voted overwhelmingly to back a strike mandate. That job action would potentially go ahead if a deal couldn't be reached at the bargaining table. Canada Post's new proposal includes wage increases amounting to 11.5% over 4 years, as well as protections for pensions, benefits, and job security. A cooling off period in the contract talks ends on Saturday.
A new report suggests the key to housing affordability for many Canadians could be sitting in their driveways. Real estate company Zoocasa calculated that the average cost of car ownership is approximately $1,400 a month when including loan payments, gas, upkeep, insurance, and parking. The report says that works out to about a third of a typical mortgage payment in Toronto, or nearly an entire payment in many smaller markets. Zoocasa noted that larger cities are more likely to have reliable alternatives to vehicle ownership, but said the financial impacts of having a car or two should be factored in when saving for a down payment or considering a move to another region. And speaking of Canadian real estate, it appears to be getting an increasing amount of interest from south of the border. That's according to new data released by Royal LePage. The company says traffic on its website from Americans has surged since the start of the summer as the U.S. presidential election campaign heated up. South Carolina appears to have been the state with the most interested potential buyers, and 70% of properties viewed by Americans were in Ontario, BC, and Quebec.
Back here at home, the TTC is searching for its next chief executive officer, and it's asking for the public's input. The transit agency says it's hired a third-party firm to recruit its next boss after Rick Leary stepped down from the permanent role 2 months ago. As part of the search effort, the company is inviting residents and transit users to share their thoughts on what the next CEO should be like. An online survey asks about key personal attributes and success factors, or even any potential candidates respondents would like to suggest. The survey is available through the TTC's website until Tuesday.
The HMCS Harry DeWolf, one of Canada's newest warships and one of the first in its class, is docked at Dieppe Park in Windsor, Ontario. CTV's Bob Belichico has more.
I've been in this group now for the past 4 years, and doing historical reenacting has been a lot of fun. But to actually get to come and see such a glorious thing like this is, like I said, quite an honor.
Named after a naval hero, the HMCS Harry DeWolf is an Arctic offshore patrol vessel now docked at Dieppe Park for the next few days.
What that means is that we are effectively a Swiss Army knife for the government of Canada.
The ship was part of a search and rescue that saved the lives of 8 people in the Northwest Passage near the Arctic this summer.
We're heading back to get ready for our next mission in the Caribbean, looking for illicit drugs.
3 people with connections to Windsor will be part of that mission. Bell River's James Van Vessem says a Coast Guard vessel that docked up in the same spot as the Harry DeWolf inspired his life path years ago.
I was really intrigued by the technical equipment that was spinning on the mast, which was the radar system, which got me interested in remote sensing and geographical information systems at the university.
Lisa Jansen traveled from Sudbury to take political science at the University of Windsor in the late 90s and went straight to the recruiting center to become a reservist.
We get to see the world. I've been all over the Mediterranean, I've been to Europe, I've been to Central and South America, and I've of course been through the Great Lakes and to the Arctic. And so I think it's an incredible experience.
A cook on board of the Harry DeWolf, Blake Blanchard, says life on a ship can be a grind, but the missions and adventures are rewarding, especially this one that brings the 23-year-old home.
Here I am looking at the Detroit skyline outside of my ship like I used to all the time, just down the riverfront. So super exciting. I got to see my whole family coming in alongside, so it's awesome. It's awesome to just be home again.
A Marine Expo is being held to expose Canadians and inspire the next generation.
We're interested in trying to find more recruits to do this noble service that we do in the Royal Canadian Navy.
Bob Belichico, CTV News.
Marvel fans are getting a sneak peek at some of its upcoming streaming releases.
It's been some time, hasn't it? You've come up in the world. I can say the same about you.
Marvel shared a teaser for the upcoming Daredevil live action series, as well as other titles, including a new season of What If and animated series from the Black Panther and Spider-Man franchises. They'll all launch on Disney Plus in the months ahead.
Lady Gaga is out with the music video for her latest single. Lady Gaga released her track Disease last week, and the video shows the artist fighting different versions of herself. She said on social media the song is about the struggle she has with her own inner demons. But Gaga said she's up for the challenge, adding, "Happy Halloween." A Canadian singer spoke candidly to fans about a persistent personal struggle he's faced throughout his career.
Shawn Mendes says he's figuring out his sexuality and doesn't want to be labeled. CTV's Adrian Gobriel has more.
It always felt like such an intrusion on...
While gently strumming the strings on his guitar, Ontario's own Shawn Mendes shared this vulnerable moment with his fans in attendance at Colorado's Red Rock Amphitheater.
The real truth about my life and my sexuality is that, man, I'm just figuring it out like everyone, and I don't really know sometimes, and I know other times. It feels really scary because we live in a society that has a lot to say about that.
The deeply personal revelation has gone viral. Less than 24 hours after this video was posted online, millions have viewed it. For years, Mendes has been harassed about his sexuality, even while previously dating Camila Cabello and Hailey Bieber.
I never talked about my orientation, but everybody else did.
Patrick Massey is an openly gay Canadian country music singer who's been on the receiving end of just some of the visceral hatred shared on social media towards Mendez today.
It's kind of puts his music in the background, and his orientation is what everybody talks about, And it's, in my opinion, it's not okay. We got to move past this, identifying people by one thing or one characteristic about who they are.
While on stage, Mendez added that as a 15-year-old, he was thrust into the music scene with little time to learn about himself. LGBTQ2S+ advocates believe Mendez's moment has the power to help thousands who are grappling with a similar question.
You don't know where that message is going to land and how everybody's going to react. So there's definitely an element of bravery there. When you have somebody of that stature coming out with that message, it is so validating.
I've never been better, so call it what you want.
Mendez adds that he's trying to allow himself to be human, to feel things, and take the time he never had during his youth to find his true self. Adrian Gobriel, CTV News, Toronto.
To sports, the Toronto Raptors will look to shake off Monday's overtime loss to Denver tonight.
4 seconds, 2 seconds, Murray, .3, we're tied. Overtime.
The Raptors at 1-3 as they face the Charlotte Hornets this evening. Both teams are hoping to snap 2-game skids. Toronto will be without All-Star Scotty Barnes as he recovers from an eye injury.
The New York Yankees have avoided a World Series sweep.
Bases loaded, 2 out. Breaks a ball, deep left field. Volpe with redemption.
Anthony Volpe's third-inning grand slam helped New York beat the Dodgers 11-4. But Freddie Freeman continued his historic run for the Dodgers, becoming the first player to hit home runs in the first 4 games of the Fall Classic. He also became the only player to homer in 6 straight World Series games. LA will have another chance to win the World Series tonight in the Boogie Down. Meanwhile, last night's game was not without controversy.
Fly to right by Torres. Betts in the corner. Does he have room? Fights with the fan. And they're going to say that it's an out and fan interference.
2 Yankees fans were ejected from the game for interference after Dodgers star Mookie Betts appeared to catch the ball. One of the fans in the front row pried open the outfielder's glove, while the other fan grabbed the Dodgers star's other hand as the ball popped loose.
My goodness. Coming up, a 90-year-old is dominating on the tennis courts in Guelph. More on how the game is keeping him young when we return. A tennis player in Guelph is celebrating a major milestone while enjoying his favorite game.
CTV's Spencer Turcott has more on what's keeping him on the court.
He's among a talented group of seniors, most in their 60s and 70s, and this gentleman fits right in.
That's Dan Gillis. He's quite a character.
He's also fierce competition. Here's the catch. He's much older than most of his opponents, and as he hits the courts for this set of games, he marks a special birthday.
I've often said I'd like to be able to play like Dan when I'm 90, but to be honest, I'd like to play like Dan next week. He's that good.
Are you actually turning 90?
I'm actually there, or somebody's been telling me lies all along.
Dan plays every Tuesday and Thursday for hours at a time, or whenever somebody calls him and needs a partner. That's a lot, though.
Yeah?
That's a lot. Like,
Well, I played yesterday. That's 2 days in a row.
Around the Royal City Tennis Club, he's treated like royalty. Everyone knows him and the quirks about his game, like having no backhand, and instead switching hands mid-play.
Oh, I put topspin on everything. I do everything with it, same as the left hand.
His age and style of play should not be mistaken for needing sympathy, because he doesn't get any. What amazes people most is his attitude and the lessons his peers take from playing him.
Teaches you to get along with others and, and to study his way, methods and your own.
So it certainly wasn't a tough task to get fellow players to gather and wish him a happy 90th birthday.
Happy birthday, dear Dan.
But as he spends his golden years smashing the golden balls, he jokingly does have one gripe about how the game has changed.
Pickleball players are taking up our courts.
Is that happening? Or
That's happening.
Really?
You can't get a court in Guelph on Sunday morning because you got so many pickleball players. They're coming out of the woodwork.
So is that happening?
I'm going to have open season on them someday.
Spencer Turcotte, CTV News, Guelph.
What a great story.
Those are
I was
fighting words.
expecting pickleball, but it was tennis.
No.
Even better.
And you know
Impressive.
what? We've talked to so many people on milestone birthdays, 190, and the constant always seems to be they're active. They're
Yes.
continuing to be active.
Movement and community are so important, and whether you're playing pickleball or tennis, I don't want anybody battling over the two. But if you're doing either of them, you can do them outside today because it is so beautiful. So maybe he can pick up a game on an outdoor court. Temperature-wise, it is really nice. We're seeing a little cloud cover out there, but overall, it is beautiful if you want to get out and get active. We are into the 20s with humidex values as we make our way through our Wednesday and one of the last days of October. Now, all eyes are on the trick-or-treating forecast tomorrow. We'll see another daytime high around 22. Lots of sunshine to start. We are looking at some cloud cover in those early trick-or-treating hours, but for those going out between about 5 and 7 in the GTA, you should be all right. Into Friday, though, it cools right down. So hopefully those sweaters, I know you packed them away, at least for today and tomorrow, you can bring them back out because they're nearby.
All right. Good advice. Thanks, Jess. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jess Smith and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6.